Hello everyone and welcome back to another tier list video. It's been about half a year since the last time I posted one of these. Um, I just get very easily distracted. It's quite hard for me to focus on a lot of things at once. I've been focusing a lot on music recently. If you want to check that out, links in the description, blah blah blah. Enough about that. Let's just get on to what we're doing today. Today we're going to be ranking every single studio album by the one and only James Blake. So I planned to do this video last year in September when he dropped his most recent album, Playing Robots into Heaven, and then I kind of just forgot. So as usual, we're going to just get right into it. We're going to jump in with his debut album, his self-titled album, James Blake, from 2011. And I'm just going to start off. This album is amazing. It wasn't the first album of his that I heard, but I remember just like being so confused by it the first time I heard it that I was like, I have to hear this again, and I kept re-listening to it until eventually I came to like just absolutely adore it. But yeah, I think it's super cool how experimental it is, how interesting the production is. It's one of the most minimalistic albums I've ever heard, but in an amazing way. Like, it's really beautiful, but at the same time it feels very cold with all these electronic elements. Although sometimes the synths can almost have this sort of warm, comforting feeling, especially in Unluck, the opening track on here. It's amazing how James uses his voice on here. You know, he doesn't care about it necessarily being the central thing you focus on. The lyrics are often very simple and repetitive, but they sort of add on to the production in very interesting ways. Or sometimes his voice is purely the focus on songs like Lindisfarne 1, where it is literally almost entirely just an a cappella. But then that leads into Lindisfarne 2, which is like building on Lindisfarne 1 with some awesome production elements. And it's just so innovative. It's so sort of different. It's so unlike anything else I've really heard. So yeah, I absolutely love this album. Some of my favorite songs on here: Unluck, The Wilhelm Scream, Lindisfarne 2, Limit to Your Love. Why Don't You Call Me is quite a short one, but I really like that one as well. Measurements, pretty much the whole album. But yeah, it's great, and obviously I think it's gonna go right up in the S tier. Now, Overgrown is an interesting one. So this is his second album from 2013, and it's probably the album of his that I've gone back to the least. But I do still like it. It kind of feels like he takes the production and singing style that he had on his debut, and he kind of builds on it, and the production becomes more full, and he's doing more things with his voice. But I think in a way the sort of charm of the first album is lost on this one. So while I do still like it, it's not an absolute favorite of mine, but it's really cool. The RZA feature on one of the tracks is really nice. That's Take a Fall for me. That's one of my favorites. The title track is really cool. I remember Digital Lion being really cool. I'm just looking at the track list here, but yeah, it's a cool album, just not a favorite. I'm gonna go put it in B, right in the middle, right in the middle. Now, The Color in Anything from 2016. This is a pretty interesting one. It's his longest album. It's got the most songs on it. It feels quite scatterbrained all over the place. The production is definitely evolving again. He's bringing in some more folksy elements, some more piano, and I do like this album quite a bit, actually. I think it's got a lot of highlights on it. I love the song with Bon Iver, I Need a Forest Fire. That song's amazing. I love the first track, Radio Silence. I really like Noise Above Our Heads, which is an a cappella track, sort of akin to Lindisfarne 1 from the self-titled album. And I do really like a lot of the songs on here. I've gone back to it a decent amount, and it's quite an undertaking to listen through this whole thing, because I do think the pacing is very off. Like, a lot of these songs are quite long and slow, so it can feel like a bit of a slog to get through this whole album. But I wouldn't say there's many things on here that I find necessarily bad. But overall, pretty great album. I'm going to put it just above Overgrown, I think. I think that makes sense to me there. Now, Assume Form from 2019 was the album that first got me into James Blake, and I really, really like this album. Part of it is just a bias because it was my first introduction to him, but I think his combination of sort of his traditional electronic style of production with some more like trap and hip hop and R&B elements make it quite an interesting album. And I think while a lot of people have criticized this project and his next project for kind of leaning too much into a more mainstream sound, I think there's still a lot of James's personality and sort of musical prowess showing through on this album. I mean, you just have to hear a song like Barefoot in the Park with Rosalia, or Are You in Love, to like realize he's not lost his touch. He's just doing different things in his style. And there's so many amazing songs on here, especially a lot of the collaborations. Barefoot in the Park, like I already mentioned. Mile High with Travis Scott, that's one of my favorite Travis features. Where's the Catch with Andre 3000, love that one. I'll Come To, Lullaby for My Insomniac, Into the Red, that's amazing, that song. Yeah, there's so many good songs on here. I really love this project. I'm going to put it in A. So, Friends That Break Your Heart, this album, I'm going to say is my least favorite James Blake album. I know I just praised Assume Form, and a lot of people have kind of drawn comparisons between this one and Assume Form for being the more mainstream direction of his sound. But I think Assume Form did really interesting things while sort of collaborating with these other artists and sort of bringing in different production ideas. For me, Friends That Break Your Heart goes too far in the direction of trying to be a little too poppy, and I think that's to its detriment. And it's not even that there's bad songs on this album, it's just that it kind of feels like a bit of a nothing project. Like, there are some really gorgeous songs on here, but a lot of it just sort of blends into the background and is quite forgettable for me. I do still like some of the songs on here. I like Coming Back with SZA. I like the song with Jid, Frozen. Say What You Will, the title track. Famous Last Words, the first song. There's some cool stuff on here. It's just probably my least favorite out of all of his projects, so I'm going to put it in C. And that brings us to Playing Robots into Heaven, his most recent album released last year. This I was so obsessed with this album when it released. I'm still obsessed with it. I wasn't a fan of Big Hammer, the first single he released from it. And it had me kind of worrying about the direction he was going to take the album in. And then he released the second single, Loading, and I was just so blown away because that is easily up there as one of my favorite James Blake songs already. And then the full album came out, and I was just so in love with this whole project. I mean, you've got Asking to Break, you've got Loading, you've got Tell Me, you've got Full Back, I Want You to Know, with this awesome sort of Burial style future garage production. I fucking love that song. Night Sky is a really great song on there. I love that one. And the way that Fire the Editor goes into If You Can Hear Me, goes into Playing Robots into Heaven, that is such an awesome run of songs. Yeah, I was obsessed with this project, still am. It's close to being my favorite album of his, but I think the self-titled beats it out just a little bit, so I'm going to put it right here in S under the self-titled. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. If you didn't enjoy it, the dislike button doesn't do anything anymore, but you can still hit it. If you're not already subscribed, consider it. I mean, I'm here sometimes. And yeah, check out my music, link in the description. I don't want to self-promo too much because it feels awkward. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.